Race number 13 of this second round robin stage of the Louis Vuitton America's Cup qualifiers. Barker against Ainsley, Japan against Britain, and the chase is already on Ken in the pre-start.
It's interesting, we were just talking about the fact that Japan was on port entry coming into the box, but Land Rover kind of cut the corner on them and forced the play back towards the starting line maybe a little earlier than Dean Barker would like. Remember, Ben Ainsley's been the best starter to date. He's won 6 out of 8 starts so far. 33 seconds to go. Low in the box right now. Reasonably close to the starting line. Ainsley shined in an exact position like this the other day. He was able to gap off, but he's still pushing for a hook.
Just keeping all options open, isn't he? Right until the last minute.
I think Barker's in a nice spot if there's no overlap. Although the Japanese have protested Ainsley at this stage. Wow, Ainsley figures out a way to force his way in there.
So the protest from the Japanese. It's the British who cross the line first up. And aggressive tactics early on from Sir Ben Ainsley. He has boxed the Japanese right in. Dean Barker at the moment can barely move.
So he's going to stay ahead to win and literally wait for Japan to stop and be the first to peel away and try to create as big an extension between the two boats as possible. This is here, back the jib.
Well, this is unusual. We don't normally see the pair of them stalled on the start line effectively, but this is all hand-to-hand combat match racing.
Well, at least they're not on top of each other this time.
Yes, they have a little bit of history, these two, don't they, as the British boat begin to edge away and pick up some quality speed now. 26 heading for 30 knots with the Japanese well behind in their wake.
Well, make it 7 out of 9. Ainsley's been clearly the best starter consistently of the group, and this is a good sign too. They popped up on their foils very quickly in only about 10 knots of breeze. So all good signs right now for the British and their supporters.
The wind speed seems to have dropped still further from when we first got underway, but the British in clear water at the moment, past Mark 1 and downwind, tearing across the top of the water on their foils.
Are we happy with that?
Very mixed out here in Bermuda, the British. Some really high quality performances and a lot of not so high quality ones. They've got the jump on the Japanese in these early exchanges.
We'll have to go back and look, Ali, at how teams did after their day off. Every team has had a day off through this round-robin series. I'm just taking a rough guess that they've all had really good performance, and afterward they've been able to sort some things out, had a little bit of time to take a deep breath and maybe do a couple changes to their boats that they wouldn't be apt to do in a 24-hour period. You give it a 48-hour period, all of a sudden you might have a little more of an opportunity to try cool new things.
All right.
Building on their lead, Land Rover BAR. No race yesterday, as Ken was mentioning. Squeaked past the French on Thursday. Quite grateful during the qualifying period for their 2 points carried over from the World Series. Been a proper roller coaster for them.
Any gate bias, Lammy.
This is the start again.
Yeah, and I didn't know if there was going to be an overlap right there. If the two boats are overlapped, but Ainsley figured out. I didn't think he could do it. Clearly, that's why he's there and I'm here. He's figured out a way to get in there in a really interesting spot, but that's not enough. If it's not one thing to put the pain on your guy, let's stick the dagger in, and this was sticking the dagger in. This is why Ben Ainsley is Ben Ainsley. He very classic match racing move. Get the other guy as slow as possible, then you determine when you want to peel away, and if you can get up on the foils quick, we saw it turned into a 200-meter lead in no time.
Well, it's how he built his reputation, isn't it? In those Olympic Games, 4 gold medals and a silver, the most decorated Olympian in sailing history. And on pretty much every one of those occasions, he has shown a ruthlessness, a will to win that few can match.
Japanese are setting up to be able to jibe and split at this mark. That's why they jibed early. Ainsley will just take a nice fast turn around. Now on that last leg, we saw some pretty good-sized wind shifts. We saw the Kiwis get a big right-hand wind shift and get themselves right back in. It looks like Japan may have jibed slightly early on this mark, maybe not.
Rounding the gate nice and crisp from Dean Barker and SoftBank Team Japan. Riding high on the foils.
Attacking.
This is a very, very similar look to what we saw in race 1. And the Kiwis came out of this right corner. Kiwis came out of each side of the race course, quite frankly. They just got themselves well in phase with the wind shifts, this puffy conditions going down to Guy and Dean. Just for a quick second, Guy, is it still reasonably puffy or is it steady out there? Give us an idea of the shifts.
Yeah, no, it is reasonably puffy down here. There's a few breaks in the middle of the course, but either side's sort of showing its strength at some point. So, yeah, I think they made the right call to split at the bottom gate and just play the shifts as they like.
Sure enough, they have that lead in no time. And we look in our box, we have about a 12-degree right-hand shift coming out of that corner. So nice little graphic that shows the wind. You know, it's hard for us to see the wind actual shifts. We can see the puffs very often on the water, but it's hard for us to see the shifts. So this is, in the upper left corner, this is information coming off of the race committee boat that we can use to inform people why gains or why losses may have been made with this invisible thing called wind.
Okay, attacking. Okay, mine. Yeah, it's building speed and I'm bringing it up. Coming up now. Take it in, guys.
Well, there is a precision to the British operation that we
it's just shifty here.
didn't see a couple of days ago. Their tacking, their jibing is altogether more stable seemingly today. But a little bit of pressure coming on from the Japanese. There the grinders, the relentless work of the grinders.
We're seeing this more and more where the tacticians actually putting their weight forward on the boat instead of being in that grinding position. They're pushing their weight forward, much further forward upwind, and then actually a little bit aft downwind. So technique is being copied throughout the fleet. One guy does it, it seems like it might work. This is a copycat world, there's no doubt about that.
Japanese gaining at the moment.
So good pressure on the nose
To
there.
reel in the British. They have been the ones very often who've gained high quality leads and then found themselves surrendering them. That's been something of a problem for Dean Barker. This is a different conundrum.
3, 2, 1, go forward. All right.
Not much in this right now, Ali, and the Japanese have never been slow. Everybody knows that. Not only is Ainsley the best starter of the group statistically so far, but Barker's the second best starter. So it's not a shock to see these two guys get in a bit of a tussle.
No problem crossing.
Japanese squeezing them out on the first day of racing by a fairly comfortable margin. But
I think
Slightly different scenario here today, but this is going to be a relatively tight cross.
It is a tight cross, down to 45 meters, and both boats. You can see the gate at the top of the course, right there. There's the gate. There's somebody's head. You can see the gate up there. Both boats are going to have to tack one more time. Never fails, does it?
I'm just waiting for the sunshine to come out again. Please let it happen.
Not the best tack. We're getting down into a little bit lighter conditions. It's only 9 knots of breeze out there right now. So all of a sudden, we saw the Brits have a little harder time get up on their foil in the lighter conditions again. Have we seen a pass? It's very close. The British on starboard, Japan on port. British have right away.
And they will not be giving any ground whatsoever.
Yeah,
this is really tight. Really tight. And the British
that is going
round
to
the
be a
gate.
protest.
There's the protest as predicted.
Very surprised if Japan does not get a penalty here.
You'd expect that to be upheld.
They get a penalty. Stand by.
There's the penalty. Japanese will have to pay. They will have to slow down a couple of boat speeds. You see the hulls to the left of your screen of SoftBank Team Japan just dropping into the water to slow them up.
2 full boat lengths of VMG towards the mark. They have to drop back, so that lead that they just grabbed, they have to give it away immediately. They still have a penalty. Bit of a right-hand shift still,
Yeah, copy.
which should benefit the Brits anyway. The Brits should be benefiting by the
Just calm down, Joel.
wind shift, and the penalty still is not burned off yet.
Sail our boat. Let them deal with it. Come on, get on the breeze, Steve. Nice.
A little more to come and then light spot.
Okay, we're going to be stretching this way.
Let's get there, Jill, lads.
There's the penalty shaken off, but really interesting to hear.
Struggling to get depth, CJ, in general downwind at the moment.
Really interesting to hear Ben Ainsley talking to Giles Scott a lot at the moment, and he was saying to him, calm down, let's sail our boat.
And waves here.
Trying to keep an extra eye and ear on the Japanese all the time, the British tactician. Let's hear from Richard Slater, the chief umpire, over that penalty decision.
Yeah, hi. We originally had Japan entitled to the left-hand mark. They then sailed out of the zone, became a port starboard with GBR between the gate marks, and as you saw, penalty Japan.
Thanks, Richard. Only 50 metres between them, although the Japanese clearly having to jibe now to head towards the gate. Might potentially be their final manoeuvre before the gate. It's perhaps unlikely, though. Certainly that should be true of the British crew from here, Ken.
We're still in a right-hand shift, so that the Japanese with a right-hand shift are actually making good gains on that side of the course now. So do not, by any means, consider the Japanese being out of this race right now. It's shifty out there. It's puffy and shifty. We can still see it's about it's an 11-degree right-hand shift right now that certainly would be favoring the Japanese. Just connecting the dots. These wind shifts are connecting the dots downwind, trying to sail the shortest possible course using the shifting back and forth. As we all know, wind never stays the same, and here's the Japanese not being...
Jibing.
One more jibing in for both. Crucial jibe for both boats here right now.
Well, this is nip and tuck, isn't it? Really nothing in it at all between these two, between Land Rover BAR and SoftBank Team Japan. The British just with their noses in front as they round gate number 4 and head on upwind again. Once more, a split course as well. The Japanese taking off in the other direction.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Tacking.
They're so much happier in the better breeze, aren't they, Ken? It's a world away from the trials and tribulations they had in light air.
Yep, I wouldn't... Seeing the Japanese just kind of hanging in there right now, I wouldn't call them fast, but I wouldn't say they're slow either. They've actually made it, again, the right-hand shift. Now it's the other side of the race course. The right-hand shift seems to still be in, even a little bit more so. You hear Ainsley saying big gains. Yes, boat speed has something to do with it, but they're in a nice, wind shifts out here. We have proven to be quite a dramatic feature, even in boats that go 45 knots.
Good stuff the other side, Lammy. Yeah, I agree, mate. 30 seconds to boundary. No slower, Dino. 20 seconds. Good feel for the tap.
Guy, we're seeing this right side of the race course, or the right-hand shift anyway. Left side downwind, right side upwind, kind of keep coming into play. Is there anything out on the race course, or even in the landmass, that would show us a little bit why that's taking place?
Good pressure this way.
I think the breeze was tending to go a little bit further right as the day went on. Obviously, those clouds that came over early, a little bit of rain in the morning, flattened things out a bit, and yeah, we might see the course just fade right a little bit as the day goes on.
This is a big cross right now. This is Ainsley. This is the side of the race course, wind shift wise anyway, that hasn't been paying off perfectly upwind. Ainsley getting back across. He's on port tack. He's coming out of the slightly unfavored side of the course. You got to go to the unfavored side at some point. You can't always force it. Here we are again. This has gotten closer for sure.
Well, this is going to be fascinating, isn't it? As the two bear down upon each other, the Japanese really got some good speed behind them. They are tight.
Just across again. Tight boat race.
So it is going to come down to those tiny margins, isn't it? It's going to be one hull in the water for a few seconds longer than it should be. That'll make the difference.
You got that right. Yes. But, it's also not a shocker that as the event moves along, we see fewer and fewer mistakes. Now it's becoming, you notice it's becoming a little more a pure boat race rather than, they just lost 200 meters because they splashed down. All these guys are going to get better by the day, are getting better by the day, and we're just going to see more of this kind of pure sailing.
Yeah, building here. Building. Okay, attacking here.
Hopefully one and in for Ainsley, trying to make it through this gate. Giles Scott talking about ley line.
Okay, mind.
Reasonably good tack. They make it through the gate and blaze off to the finish. They're on starboard tack, so even if the boats are very close, the key is making that gate, is trying to get around that gate in the upper right-hand part of our screen. Can they make the gate without having to tack one more time? Because I'll tell you what, it is close.
And it's getting closer. All the time it's getting closer. The Japanese are gaining.
You hear Ainsley saying, gotta lay. This is the race. It's one. They don't want to do one more tack. They have to lay this gate.
This is Mark 1 then?
Looks like they're going to make it pretty comfortably.
I think they're in a high slowed mode, though. See that it was only going 18 knots, so they're trimming the boat differently in order to go closer to the wind. Not their perfect BMG, but they're just trying to get as close as possible and get around that mark. Game on right now.
Game on for the final downwind leg. Neck and neck. It's all on.
Were they close enough? Were they close? They jibe in front onto port jibe. SoftBank Team Japan is on starboard.
Yeah, I've got that.
It's in the hands of the judges right now, of the umpires.
And there's the decision from Richard Slater. He's taken the advice of Sir Ben Ainsley, who is kindly offering him his advice.
Wow. Wow.
Exciting race for all the spectators on the shoreline here on the Great Sound in Bermuda. So many of the boats out there as well. offering a wonderful vantage point. Great showdown between two outstanding helmsmen in Ainsley and Barker. Two fine crews.
That course setup, Ali, is like nothing we've seen. That last little leg, that tiny little leg, it was all about that one jibe. That one jibe, whether they could pull it off or not, and it was close. We're going to have to go back and take a look at that. But that was it. That was the race. Now this blast reach into the finish. Not a lot of passing lanes, but that short little leg, we never would have imagined that it would have had potential consequences that it did. And Ainsley and the Brits just get across.
Closing in. Sir Ben Ainsley and the British crew ripping down the runway.
You notice how quiet it is on board on a leg like this, because there's really no tactics to be discussed. Everybody's just doing their job. Cruising along at 35 knots and 9 knots of breeze.
And the game is up now for SoftBank Team Japan. They will trail in behind. It'll be another disappointment for Dean Barker, the 6th time that they would have been beaten here in Bermuda. But something of a change in fortunes for the British. Squeak through against the French to make sure of their spot in the Challenger playoff semi-finals. But a win here to lift the spirits after a testing campaign, much improved. And they have seen off the Japanese threat. Through the finish line, some 13 seconds behind SoftBank Team Japan.